Hello everybody, I'm Selfinterest. Welcome to the Khmer Post USA TV. Last year, I spoke with Theary Seng, a Cambodian American civil rights lawyer who was summoned to the Phnom Penh court. She was charged for incitement and treason because she showed support for Mr. Rainsy, the former president of the CNRP, Cambodia's main opposition party that was outlawed by the ruling party. Theary and over 100 other CNRP supporters were summoned to what is known as Cambodia mass treason trial on Thanksgiving Day. Because it received high level of international attention, her court appearance was rescheduled to January. Then it delayed again until now. She isn't the only person being put under the weaponized judicial system. Kamsuka, the CNRP president, has been waiting for his trial for 4 years. In the meantime, he was banned from any political activity, and the CNRP was dissolved before he even had a trial. As a lawyer by trade, Theary has been fighting for her rights in court, her right to represent herself and her due process, highlighting the violation of the Cambodian court. In this interview, Theary discussed the inhumane prison conditions and how she has mentally prepared to go there herself. In the light of Theary's case, we also have a chance to look at other Cambodian citizens' cases in which their human rights are also violated. With a grim sense of humor, Theary called this trial a political theater, where the judges are political actors and she is dressed for the stage. She is represented by a well-known international human rights lawyer, Jared Genser. Watch this interview with Theary Seng from last year about the situation. I think for us, watching for you from afar, I think, that day, how you made the grand entrance and the grand exit at the court in Phnom Penh.
I was wearing stilettos about 4 inches high. It really hurt my toes. It was like the most uncomfortable pair of stilettos I own, and I wore it. But it was part of the costume, because I want to show that this is political theater. And the scenery is a courtroom, but that is not the real thing. The real issue is the stage that is political. So I wanted to use whatever props, we're thinking about a play, a theater, sort of like a dramatic scene. I wanted to really highlight that point. And I will do again because I want to continue to say it looks like a courtroom. The actors are judges and prosecutors, but the actors, they've been given scripts that they have to read and follow. So, and I want to continue to underline and underscore that point, that this is political theater. I have been forced into this the way that the others have been forced into this. And of course, they cannot control what I say, even though they can control the other actors. I think it's really important for us to constantly keep that in mind. So I make lighthearted of it because I have to, I know it's very serious. But as I've said before, I will sing when and if they arrest me. They cannot take my spirit away. And I spoke with, during the hearing, I sat next to two prisoners of conscience. អ្នកជាប់គុកមនសិការហើយម្នាក់លោកដែលអង្គុយខាងឆ្វេងដៃខ្ញុំហ្នឹងគាត់ឈ្មោះហេងចាន់សុធីលើកទី2ដែលគាត់ជាប់គុកសូមទៅសារគាត់ហើយខ្ញុំសក់ទឹកភ្នែកពេលឮរឿងគាត់ចុះពេលមានការផ្អាកនៅក្នុងសវនាការហ្នឹងពេលចៅក្រម3អង្គហ្នឹងគាត់ទៅសម្ភាសទៅជជែកជាមួយគ្នាយើងបានប្រហែល15នាទីអីបានជជែកជាមួយអ្នកបានខ្ញុំបានទៅសួរសុខទុក្ខពួកទូតបាននិយាយជាមួយពួកគាត់ហើយគាត់ខ្ញុំបានសួរគាត់ថាលោកមិនទៅសភាពការនៅពន្ធនាគារខ្ញុំគាត់សុំពីពន្ធនាប្រាប់គេ tell me about the conditions of the prison right and he said well it measures 4 by 6 meters with 22 other inmates and there is on concrete floor so no beds just plain concrete floor and the bathroom also is where they do the washing and where they shower and it's less than 2 meters. I think he even said 1 meter by 1 meter for 23 prisoners. But you know, I've learned to be content in whatever situation. So if I'm prepared for this. So even though the chances of being in prison have reduced because of you and because of all the others who have really mobilized and shed light on the dark situation, I think has made this regime rethink the case, in particular vis-a-vis me. But you know, even after hearing about the prison conditions, I'm under no illusions. I already know, but of course, to hear it directly from him, how it is in real life, you know, it's not a pretty place, but mentally I have to prepare for it, and I am prepared for it. And physically, I will again before on the 14th. I will have my hair cut again because even though the chances of me being in prison have decreased, it's still I think about 50-50, and I have to prepare for it. And I'm not afraid. I mean, I have lived in luxury, and I have lived in, of course, my childhood is of poverty, as many of our childhood were, having lived through the Khmer Rouge. So it's an issue of mentality. So I'm mentally prepared for prison, whatever the conditions.
This prison condition, it's for prisoner of conscience, same as
they're mixed. I think they're mixed. I don't think they're separated from the hardcore criminals. I think the male and female are separated. So this is a room of male prisoners. They're literally, I mean, it's overcrowding. First of all, it violates UN standards, international standards, because there should be a bed, there should be sanitation. Oh, and he even told me that they're given, when they upon entering prison, they're given 1 bowl and 1 spoon. And so they have to wash, and so they go and get their food. And I asked, how is it? How's the food? And he said, full of chemicals. And they're given each day, they're given 2 small bowls of water, clean water. The rest they have to use the water pumped from the dirty pond that is near the prison. So my biggest concern, of course, is sanitation. But you know, I deal with the situation as they come. But so this is why I have to continue to be mentally and physically prepared for jail, because I don't want it to jump up in my face thinking that, oh, now I'm free. But other prisoners are going through this, and I want, if I am to be in prison, I want to highlight, and this is also I want to show, I mean, if my situation, my physical appearance changed from how I am now to after being in prison after a certain months or weeks or months, I want that also to prick the conscience of the public. I want to highlight the darkness of this regime, be it in the court or being in prison. Wherever I am, I want to continue through words or through actions or through the conditions. I want to physically allow my body to go through the conditions. That's the only way that we need to, that can be. Oh well, it's one of the more powerful ways is to prick the conscience. So, and especially when I know that I am in prison for justice because of injustice. So I want to use whatever is available within my sphere of influence to raise the conditions, the prison conditions, the legal conditions, the political conditions, the social conditions of Cambodia. We are in a very, very dangerous state right now. Cambodia is very, very vulnerable, extremely vulnerable. The Cambodians, the people are very vulnerable because the political leadership has created this very vulnerable state for everybody. And if we want to change, we have to prick the conscience of the global community to address the Cambodia situation. And so anyway, but it's still theoretical because I would like to be free, of course, but who knows? It's still 50-50.
It's hard to imagine what kind of tools what for those who are already in prison.
Yeah.
What is the communication tool that they allowed this far? Did you what have you learned so far?
Well, I mean, in terms of the physical tools, they can't have phones inside, for sure. They cannot. I know that they can have relatives visit. For me, I've been told by the US Embassy that they will visit me should I be detained once a month. They can bring me toiletries like toothbrush, toothpaste, shampoo. And I've Mr. Heng Jansati, the current prisoner of conscience, told me that relatives can come and bring them food. But as you know, I mean, it's very expensive for someone for a regular Cambodian to constantly go to prison and bring food because transportation costs, and then it takes and time away from their livelihood if they have to make a living, if they're working in the market, and then they have to buy the food. And when especially with COVID. Today, I went and had my nails done because I know that maybe my last time to have my nails done. I had manicure and pedicure for 6,000 reals, $1.50. So this is the value of money. It's real. I mean, the woman worked on my nails and on my toes for at least 1 hour. And all she could ask me is for 60 reals, which is $1.50. That's not even a cup of coffee. You can't even buy a cup of coffee for that. Here, you can't buy a cup of coffee at Brown or Starbucks. Maybe along the side road you can buy, but I mean it's amazing. So labor is very very cheap, and any money, any exchange is expensive for families to go to buy food for them. Can you imagine if they go? Let's say they go every 2 or 3 days. Transportation costs back and forth. That's $2. Food is another dollar or two. That's $4 just for the prisoner. Of course, the person has to eat. The wife has to also eat. That's another $2. So that's $6 on one visit. And if they go twice a week, that's $12. And $12 is a lot if you're not making any money. Like I said, if it took a woman to work on my toes and nails and all she could charge me is $1.50, it just reflects the value of money, especially when there's the garment industry is closing down, and we don't have many industries. The tourism is also affected by COVID. the market, when I went to Satu Tumpong, the Russian market, half the shops were closed. And everyone was trying to sell me things. And I mean, I didn't have the heart to bargain, because how can you bargain, you know, and for 20 cents or 50 cents or $1 when they need it so much? And for me, I mean, of course, I mean, I'm not rich, but you know, it's $1. Like, so it's just I guess I'm telling you these, I'm giving you these details you already know, but just to illustrate the value of money here and what it means for the prisoners and for the families. I mean, Mr. Heng Jiansukti was saying that he feels badly for his family because they're suffering more than him. He was saying, because you know, they're worried about him, and they have to make a living, support him inside prison, and also support themselves, and then travel time. I mean, it's very, very difficult. The logistics of it is costly, and yeah. So I will, of course, I will be in a different situation. You know, the supports given me and the resources that have will be a little bit different. So I'm aware of that, and this is why I want to use the platform to raise awareness for the others as well. With a little bit of a show, and you know, I mean, a little bit of a public stunt.
Have you thought about joining the opposition party, or you will remain independent outside like this?
You know, at this moment in time, I've been here since 1995, and everyone always think, oh, Theary's going to join in politics. But I'm happy being in Cambodia. I want to be, for me, I mean, I've learned to give credence to what resonates internally with me more than what others say I should do. I'm open to politics. I'm not against it if it's meaningful, if it's beneficial. I don't want to do it just for the status. I don't want to do it just to, I mean, I've had many, many years of, and it was easier. The entrance into politics was a lot easier in 1995, 96, 97. I mean, we're talking about 15 or 20, 25 years now, 25 years of opportunity and for me to enter politics, and it was easier. So I'm not against it. I'm not against it, but I have to make sure that I'm more helpful than hurtful, you know, because we have seen individuals who have been harmful to the democracy cause because of self-interest. All of us have self-interest, so I'm not gonna, but our self-interest need to be tame, need to have the boundary of reasonableness and responsibility. So I'm not against it, but I would like to continue working on the writing, on the Khmer punctuation, because, you know, my heart breaks. I'm a reader. I'm certain I mean, being, of course, you're a journalist, you like to read. We love to read. You know what it means. I mean, we enjoy reading. But, you know, this society, I mean, because the materials are lacking, or if they exist, they're translated. And then the Khmer language, I'm arguing, and I have really strong grounds and strong reasons to say that we can use punctuation marks to help clear and ease the reading process, because already we have so many other obstacles against reading. So we should find every means and make every effort to make the reading process easy, enjoyable, and clear. So, and I see punctuation marks as that. So you can imagine there's so much work in that. So I'm happy to continue, but if this regime continued to push me and give me a larger and larger public platform, that's the opening the way to politics normally. So I'm not against it. It's just, I mean, I know that it takes a lot of energy as well. So I'm not against it, but but you know, this regime, I think also know that they don't want to give me that platform either, because they want to cut off every leader, as you know. That and you know what's the Khmer saying? You know, I mean, so they don't, and so this is why they're rethinking my case. Initially, they thought, oh, no one will come and rally around Theary. No one, but there's a, there's a very high price that this regime is paying now in terms of international attention and scrutiny. And they don't want me to give this public platform because it could launch a political career. I mean, that's how political careers are launched. You're given a very wide platform. I was given that before, but I was in civil society. I was very active. I mean, and I was very supportive because I already saw the leadership, and I support, Rainsy, many years ago, from earlier on. So I'm happy to play a supporting role, but should ever, I mean, if they continue to push me and give me a larger political platform, either they will have to cut my voice in a very violent way, or I will continue to speak. And so this is the dilemma right now. The dilemma is that they don't want to give me a political platform because it could launch a political career, but then I will continue to speak out.
You mentioned earlier they kind of were testing the water. They summoned all these people without any substantial evidence of treason that they accuse of. Why do you think the summon was happened in the first place?
I mean, it's really interesting. Like you said, it's a mass treason case, right? I mean, it's unprecedented. I don't think we've seen this before, where they just sort of like group everyone together, over 100 of us. And I think it's a reflection of their confidence that they can get away with it. And I think if I didn't come along, I think with the others, they would have just gone through the regular process of just, okay, if you confess, then we let you go. If you make accommodation, we let you go, or we let you on bail. If you continue to be stubborn, okay, you go to jail. But then again, I think I was sort of like the left. I came from left field. I'm sort of the troublemaker, I guess, in this situation, because they didn't expect, again, the attention, the scrutiny on all the situation in Cambodia via my speaking out. So I'm aware of this. And so this is, again, it raises the concern for my physical security now. I have security cameras placed in my home now. I mean, it's a very simple my home, but the technology around my home is incredible now. I mean, if I tell you the rent of my home, which is like, I mean, it's really, it's like nothing. I won't tell you what it is, but it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the market price. And I painted the place myself. So it's a very basic my home. But then my aunts and uncles have paid for security cameras. My brothers have built me like an upstairs bathroom, so I don't have to walk every night, downstairs to use the bathroom. I mean, and then there are floodlights around my house. So this simple Khmer home is very, very high in technology now.
So you mentioned that they would use a few process, try to get people to either submit or go to jail. I was curious when Mr. Rong Chun, they tried to offer a bail but was denied. Why do you think that Mr. Rong Chun case try to offer a bail? Wouldn't that be the same as admitting what he did was wrong? Or what do you think, why that was?
With Lok Run Chun, he is a very able mass mobilizer. I mean, he's probably at the top. He can mobilize. I mean, he's the head of the Teachers Association and he's the head of the labor union. So he is an experienced mobilizer. So for him, right away, they put him in prison. I mean, I don't even think he's charged with treason. I think he's just charged with incitement. I'm charged with both treason and incitement. But they allow me to be outside, whereas with him, they wanted to go after him right away because he's one of the last effective leaders who can really mobilize because of his broad network, being the head of the Teachers Association and the garment industry and the labor union. And he's very stubborn. He is a core, very principled man. I have so much respect for Mr. Rung Chun. So I think they're not going to let him off on bail because he could mobilize. They need him to remain silent and contained in prison.
I'm
So
getting
even though
I'm getting a stream of goosebumps just remembering that how he was arrested and immediately thrown in jail. Are you saying that he was not given any due process of defending?
none of us, but the violation against him is more. All of them are gross violations without without any basis in law or in facts. But for him, yeah, right away they put him in prison. The way that they put Mr. Heng's Chan Suu Kyi. So the due process. We're beyond speaking about due process. They don't care. They don't. It's interesting because the genuine lawyers, not the lawyers appointed by the Cambodian Bar Association, I think people just sort of dismiss the due process. The lawyers didn't even make a big effort to say, look, all these violations. I was the one that's saying, look, where's my indictment? Where are the fingerprints? I'm going through all the details, but I think everyone is so used to the violations that they didn't even think to raise the issues, big or small. The due process. It's a joke. They don't even care to follow due process. But again, I think with me now, because I'm also a lawyer and a U.S. passport holder, a lawyer, and now with a very famous lawyer representing me as well. It has just, I think they're buying time to rethink the situation. And I think they've also been very accommodating. So they allow me to represent myself, which is, in the Cambodian, in the criminal code of the Cambodian criminal code, it's, I think Article 301, it says, in criminal cases, the court must appoint a lawyer. But then that's only one part of the situation. What the local lawyers don't argue is that our Cambodian law also recognizes the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, because the Constitution says that this covenant is a part of Cambodian law. But the local lawyers, they don't make that argument. But I'm making the argument. And in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the ICCPR, which gives the due process, the right to an attorney, it also has the right to self-represent as a fundamental right. So not only the right to have an attorney, but complement to that, it's the right to self-represent. So I'm saying, both are Cambodian laws, and I'm making this case, and I have a strong foundation to make this case because I am not a child and I'm not mentally incapacitated. And if we're talking about the administration of justice, I want to represent myself because I'm also versed in law. So they have recognized that. So I've been able to meet with the judge and his clerk, and they've been giving me, they've only given me 3 sets of documents, which are completely baseless again. But yeah, so the due process, they don't care. And we know that they don't care because they've been violating due process left and right all the time. The local lawyers are so used to it that they don't even raise it as the matter of concern anymore.
That day, the Thanksgiving Day, on because we didn't get a talk. It's been a while. You were busy.
It has been a while.
By so many media were going after you. Can you describe just a little bit with what happened in courtroom that day with other victims?
of this mass treason trial?
So Jared and my lawyer Jared and his team in Washington D.C. He and I and we they and I, we were communicating up until midnight, and then at midnight I was on a Skype conversation with a former Chinese prisoner of conscience. And he was put in solitary confinement for months, I think almost 2 years. And so I was mentally prepared as well. I'm having this conversation with this former prisoner of conscience. And then we prepared other ways in terms of if this happens, then how do we communicate with each other? Because they need to know, they need to be able to, shout to the international community. So, I mean, I'm so impressed with them because they stayed up till midnight. Because when it was 10 o'clock here, I mean, it's 10 o'clock over there on the East Coast. And then after I left court, I think I was talking with Jared on the phone. It was midnight or 1 a.m. in Washington, D.C. I was so impressed. And he really wanted to know what happens. But so that day, I was supposed to, well, I mean, how we talked about who would accompany me, who in case of I'm blocked from entering, if there's a big crowd and there's a mass, we don't know. We didn't know how large or small the crowd would be, and we didn't know the barricade. So we had some people scouting the area, and I was communicating with my lawyers and with them, telling me what is the situation, so I can go. And I also had one media had asked me to do an interview prior. I think it was either AP or AFP, one of the wire services. And so I went up at 7:30, and I noticed that already the neighborhood was blocked off, and there were security presence all over. And I took a taxi, and they couldn't tell me that I was in that car. So I had a free reign, a free vision of the environment. And then I was let off about a block away. And then that was when I walked toward the press and did the interview prior to entering the courtroom. And when I tried to enter the courtroom, because I had prepared to be detained, literally, I thought I would be detained that day. I had nothing on me. I didn't have the summons on me. I had my purse and all my phone, everything were already put in a safe place, given to somebody for safekeeping. And so I went to the gate. I said, I need to go and attend the hearing. And the security said, well, where's your ID? Where's your summons? I said, oh, I don't have my summons, but I know I'm on that list. Look for my name. And they couldn't find my name. They checked 2 or 3 times. And then another guy had to come in from inside and said, yeah, she is on the list, and had to take me in. But they didn't want, I was like asking to go in court, and they're saying, no, you can't go in, which is a little bit, the irony, right? And then I went inside and was already full. The public viewings, and when I entered the room, it's the size of a large classroom, of a large junior high classroom, for example, in the States. So I entered. The public viewing benches were to my right, and the judge and the clerks and the lawyers were to my left, and inside were benches for all the charged. And I noticed that all the diplomatic corps were there. The U.S. Embassy representatives were there. The French representative was there. The Japanese embassy was there. The Swedish embassy. And noticed that after the court hearing, the Swedish embassy made a public announcement saying, we are pulling out of Cambodia. The timing was very, very interesting. They didn't say it was because of the hearing, but the timing was such where they said, we will close our embassy in Cambodia, and we will only work based in Bangkok now. Amazing.
I did see that news and was wondering why that is.
The timing, I mean, it's a political statement. It's a diplomatic statement. I mean, they didn't say it's because of that. They used diplomatic language, but of course the timing is the impact. And it communicated to this regime that the Swedish embassy would no longer deal with this type of shenanigans, with all the gross violations. It wasn't just that one issue. It has been, I mean, the Swedish embassy has been very outspoken, and it has been incrementally thinking of closing down the embassy. But it chose that moment in time, that day after the court hearing, to make the public announcement, which is very, very telling. So it was very chaotic in the courtroom. It was packed. Facing me were all the six attorneys and the six lawyers appointed by the Cambodian Bar Association, and so they are also actors of this regime. I mean, so I make a distinction between the genuine attorneys. There were two of them, and Luk Chanti and Samsukun. And Samsukun is also a charged person, which is crazy. I mean, to be charged and to be the lawyer. But the other lawyers are the actors. So the actors and the real lawyers. That's how I categorize those lawyers. And then the prosecutor, and then all the charged. So there was a seat, and then there were two prisoners taken from the jail who were also part of our group. And the clerk read all the lists. I mean, literally read all the names from the however many, over 100. To say present or not present, and many times it's at Watamian, not present.
How many people present that day?
I forgot, probably about 30 something, in the low 30s. I don't know offhand, but no more than 35, around 30 to 35. But it was packed. It's a small courtroom, and can you imagine if there were all 129 of us in there? I mean, it's a joke. How can you administer justice already? I mean, each case takes so much energy. Just my case alone, my lawyers had 42 pages on just my case alone that they issued the appeal to the UN. And that's just an appeal. We're not even talking about the substantive issues. We haven't even addressed the substantive issues of treason, of incitement, of conspiracy. This is at the beginning, and already for one person, there are 42 pages in an appeal. Can you imagine 129? How are they going to administer justice? So it's not the administration of justice. It's the administration of politics is what it is. And if you do it with politics, you can do everything how you want. But it was very chaotic. And then
sorry, 1 second.
All right.
You said that it's not an administration of justice, an administration of politics.
Yeah, for sure. So if it's the administration of justice, they would take into consideration what you raised earlier, due process. And then after due process, the substantive issues, providing us an indictment, which would give us the factual basis of when we committed the crime, allegedly, on what day, what time. None of that was given to us. And even these documents I'm reading now, they're general documents. They're not specific to me. I mean, it lists my name. Oh, here's the thing that that caught my attention. They said that 1 year ago, when I was in Norway, that they had issued a summons for me, and I fled justice. Crazy. So, I mean, a complete lie. And of course, I mean, I went and I came back. And every day I would be posting on Facebook saying, I'm here. So I didn't learn about the summons and the charges against me. I mean, I didn't learn about it until 1 month ago, not 1 year ago. And already it was a major lie, which can easily be proven that it's a lie. So I don't know how they're going to respond to that. And I have to respond to that, but it's such an easy one. So they don't even take time to lie properly. You know, I mean, they lie. Can you lie properly? I don't know if you can lie properly, but I mean, they're so careless that they don't even take time to make the details of the lie believable. I mean, they're so confident that they can get away with it. But, you know, I went to Norway. I left the night of November 2, 2019. And I didn't arrive back because there was a delay with my ticket in Europe until November 9. I was supposed to arrive on November 8, but all this I posted ahead of time, very transparent, very public. And they said on November 6, 2019, they had issued a summon for me on treason and on incitement, and I get clue and I fled justice.
It's probably one of those summons that they just posted somewhere.
Well, they didn't know I was going to respond and make it a public. I mean, they didn't realize that they have now to issue, and that I would raise a big stink about it. But you know, on that day where I was at a human rights conference hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Norway. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Norway spoke at this human rights conference. It was a combination of government officials and civil society leaders to discuss human rights. So the irony, on November 6th, when I was in a conference on human rights, I get cluen. So I mean, it's so overtly outrageous that it makes it easy, because again, it's just another example of the fact that there's no foundation in fact or in law. And how can you have a court when you have a case when there's no foundation in fact and in law? You know, and to commit a crime, you need two things. You need to have the mental state, mens rea, and you have to have the act. So if you only have the mental state, oh, I'm going to kill that person, but you didn't kill that person, well, there's no crime. But if you accidentally killed someone without the mental state, well, except for drunk driving, and then they impute. But for example, if you're insane, officially insane, clinically insane, well, you have no mental state. Then, so you need both. And for me, I mean, so it has to be based in fact, what actually happened, and in law, is there a crime? And was there the intention, the mental state to commit that crime? Did I mentally, intentionally want to create chaos? So on treason, I mean, Pisa Khmer, and the Khmer language is very, very insightful, because we, in English, we say treason. In Khmer, we say bot chiet. Did I bot chiet, or did I just criticize Hun Sen? There's a huge difference of night and day. So the Khmer language is so precise on this. Bot, to betray the nation, the interest of the nation. And then incitement. Incitement is to disrupt for the bad, to poison or to disrupt society, to make it and to worsen society. And for me, I mean, I've always been talking about democracy and human rights and encouraging people to read. So it's not based in fact or in law, and you need both things.
And I think earlier we mentioned that this is not a court of justice; it's a court of politics. And with a group of CNRP leadership returning to homeland on January 4th, and they're willing to face the trial, which they also prepare in event they will be detained that day. Are you concerning that they're walking into the trap? And what is your thoughts on this?
They're very shrewd. They're very clever to make use of the opportunity. They're exploiting an opportunity by using my case, which I'm very happy to assist in this regard. So they saw an opportunity and they're exploiting it, and it's very clever in this regard as well. The argument is, well, the court, this court has summoned us, and we want to go and attend court. He didn't say, well, we want to come and do politics. We want to appear in court. So how can the court say no? But I'm not sure if you heard, but the leaders, the 11 leaders in the summons, their date has now been delayed to January 29. So for me and all the others, it's still January 14. But for the leadership, Madame Musakur and Ing Chai Ing and all the others, it's for January 29 now. And that date change was done after this regime found out that the leadership wants to return on January 4. So they want to prolong the time should there, and I mean, it's a political move on this and by this regime, but it's very clever of the CNRP leadership to exploit an opportunity to change the situation, because they have been wanting to return, and also to use Madame Moussakour as the leader to lead this group, and not use Sam Rainsy, because I think, well, I mean, to have two petite women, you know, I mean, me and my Wang Moussakour together, it's just, what, they're going to send armed forces and come and beat us up? I mean, you know, I mean, the optics are just more contrasting. You know, we're petite, peace-loving women, and plus we're both Americans. We're both American and Cambodian. So, I mean, it's very strategic on the part of the opposition, CNRP, the way that they have used the occasion, and also to allow Moussakour to take the lead in this regard. So I applaud them. I think it's a very wise move. It's a very clever move. But this regime has responded by delaying their court case to now January 29.
I think when I first learned Hun Sen government banned certain individuals from doing politics, it was started with former member of parliament, Senator Thaik back in, when I saw him in Cambodia in 2016. He then already resigned from the CNRP member of parliament, but he was banned from doing politics before. And somehow people, this is a track record that people keep on getting either banned from doing politics or arrested and jail. Kam Sokha himself also was put in jail before, prior to he started the Human Rights Party, before merging into the CNRP. So this whole legal system that has been used in Cambodia, this is not new. What can you say to what happened then and now?
The tool, the use of the court as a political tool is not new. The environment is new. It's more dangerous for the welfare of Cambodia and for the future of Cambodia. Yeah, the court has been an effective tool, has been a trusted tool by this regime to silence certain individuals who are critical of the regime, be they in politics or in civil society or anyone. But the environment now, the condition, the situation in Cambodia is very, very dangerous, pose grave danger for the future, for the existence of Cambodia and for Cambodians in this regard. There has been just a dive in terms of, it's just been a downward spiral at a very, very quick pace in terms of democracy and the death of democracy. I mean, we're literally at our breathing our last breaths now in terms of the democracy is and the Democrats. And also the human rights situation have just taken a very, very quick dive since 2016. But it started in 2013 as well. You know, there was a height with the Cambodia Spring, the election, and then from then on, it's just dovetail. So the environment has changed. We don't have Democracy Park at the UN, near the US Embassy anymore. It's been pushed way back. We don't have civil society. We don't have free media the way that we used to. And civil society, I should just emphasize, it was really vibrant. I mean, you know this. We were praised around the world. Cambodia was praised for our very vibrant civil society. And I was active during that golden age as well. I was in 2006, 2007, 2008. We were just known for, Cambodia was known for a very vibrant civil society. Well, that's no longer. And then China now is overtly, aggressively in Cambodia. And it makes no attempt to even hide its agenda that it wants to colonize Cambodia. With the military bases, with the buying up of lands, and with just buying the head of the leadership. So it poses a very, very imminent and grave danger for Cambodians and Cambodia. So that's the difference between before, yes, using the legal tool, and it continues to be used on the court as a political tool. It's a mainstay, but the environment is more dangerous now for Cambodia.
Fast moving forward, this January 14 court date, who else going to be there? Do you know?
I haven't heard who will be present. I think it's going to be the same individuals as last time. The 30-something individuals who are in country, who have not either fled or are already in exile. But that's just a guess. I think right now people are just taking a breather the way that I am, because I mean, there isn't much that I can do, because in terms of the law, it's very shallow. You know, it doesn't take much for me and for Jared and his team to understand the law, because it's just very, very shallow. It only takes a little bit of time. And now with the holiday season, I think everyone just wants to experience this respite. I am anyway. I'm listening a lot to instrumental music, and I'm meditating a lot, and just taking care of myself, knowing and being mentally prepared. I'm mentally prepared for jail, because I don't want it to be a shock. I want to know all the conditions, all the gruesome conditions. I'm not going to hide away from it. If there's a news article about the overcrowding, I want to know, so I can be very practical and very well, I don't want to have any illusions about the conditions. I'm familiar with it from years before, when I visited every prison in Cambodia. But of course, you know, that was 1997. That was 23 years ago. So I want to understand the physically, mentally, and understand the prison's condition. And I need to prepare mentally, because it's, of course, the physical hardships, but the mind is, of course, as you know, is more powerful than the physical environment. We can change our physical environment if our mind is prepared. And so I want to do that.
When Kamsuka appeal request for a hearing, the response he received was, because of COVID, they don't have a court date for him. But yet, all certain, in the middle of COVID, he packed the courtroom with other summons. So I think beyond, at this point, we look at it.
They don't even try. He doesn't even try to be consistent. They don't care. They you know, I mean, the arrogance and of this regime, of this leader, of Mr. Hun Sen, is beyond the pale. He doesn't even care to be consistent, as you're highlighting. Yeah, a lot of uncertainties.
I think, you know, what is the request you have for Biden administration, as I have you on right
now? I'm more hopeful because of the Biden administration, because I think they will bring human rights to the forefront again in foreign policy and foreign affairs. And I think they will be more nuanced. I think they will be very determined to protect human rights and to build America up as the champion of human rights again. So that will help to bring down the arrogance of the autocrats around the world, because I think President Trump had encouraged autocrats like Mr. Hun Sen to become even more autocratic. And I think President Biden will be different. And I think it will take some time to go back to how it was prior to Trump in terms of the human rights. You know, when Trump was elected, I was in tears. I remember I was in California watching with my aunt in Southern California the election night, and I knew right away that he would be empower autocrats like Mr. Hun Sen. So I think, President-elect Biden will be more amenable to protecting human rights around the world, and will build up again the status of the United States as a champion of human rights, and will work with international institutions, because many of the human rights instruments are in the international institutions, the United Nations, the international covenants, the International Criminal Court. I think the Biden administration will once again give credence to those international infrastructures, which help to protect human rights and elevate human rights. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Wrapping up our interview, and definitely would like to.
It was more like a conversation. I feel like I'm having a conversation with a friend rather than an interview. I feel like I should be a little bit more formal.
Thank you.